For today's video, we are going to rank every NBA team's backcourt from 30 to 1 for the 2025 NBA season. And I feel like it was fitting time to do this because one of the best backcourts of all time broke up this offseason when Klay Thompson left Golden State to sign with the Dallas Mavericks. So what I did was I ranked every team's starting point guard, every team's starting shooting guard, and just averaged the two out. So let's start things off at number 30. I do have the Washington Wizards backcourt of Malcolm Brogdon and Jordan Poole. Right now, all the projected depth charts have Jordan Poole as the starting shooting guard, and it makes sense. He's going to be making $30 million a year. And they did pick up Malcolm Brogdon with the trade involving Denny Avdia this offseason, and I do think that this backcourt isn't going to be intact by the end of the year. There's probably a really good chance that either Jordan Poole gets benched from this and maybe they start Bilal Coulibaly there or Bub Carrington, or Malcolm Brogdon just gets traded at the deadline. And Malcolm Brogdon isn't what he used to be in his Milwaukee or Indiana days, or even when he won Sixth Man of the Year in 2023 with the Boston Celtics. And I have no idea if we're going to get 2022 Jordan Poole again. These are two still solid players in their own right, but when you're just ranking them against every other team's backcourt in the NBA, they're coming in last in my opinion. At number 29, I have Dennis Schroeder and Cam Thomas of the Brooklyn Nets. When I was mapping these out, obviously Cam Thomas was ranked pretty high in my shooting guard rankings, but Dennis Schroeder was at the bottom of my starting point guard rankings in this league. Like Malcolm Brogdon for the Wizards, I don't even think that Dennis Schroeder is going to be the starting point guard on this team after the deadline. I think he's either going to get traded or bought out. Now, I do think Cam Thomas still has a really high upside in this league. I'm a little worried on how he's going to be as the true number one option on this team with an increase in volume and usage. Will his efficiency be able to hold up in that aspect? There's a lot more to get excited about Cam Thomas than Dennis Schroeder for the 2025 season. Coming in at number 28, one that definitely has a lot of upside this year, and it's going to be the Portland Trailblazers with Scoot Henderson as the starting point guard and Anthony Simons as the starting shooting guard. Now, there's a lot of question marks with this backcourt defensively, and coming off his rookie year, Scoot Henderson was very disappointing in year number one in this league, but he has to be better in year number two. And for Anthony Simons, I'd like to see him prove that he's not an empty stats on a bad team guy, and he can elevate his team, win him a couple games this year, and show that he's a ceiling-raising player right now. And these are two players that have exciting potential and upside in this league, but just for next year, when you're mapping these out against all the other point guards and shooting guards in this league, it's hard to rank them much higher. Coming in number 27, I have the Utah Jazz backcourt of Colin Sexton and Keontae George. Now, I think Colin Sexton is a really good shooting guard. He's a nice combo guard in that aspect. He's really efficient. He's a good ball handler in the half court, and he's not going to turn the ball over. For Keontae George, he actually exceeded expectations in his rookie year as the starting point guard for the Jazz. He does need to work on his efficiency at the rim, show that he's efficient inside the three-point arc because he was solid outside the arc last year. And if Keontae George can improve on the defensive end of the floor, these two could definitely be ranked higher at the end of the year. But there's also still a question mark if Colin Sexton is going to be a Utah Jazz by the end of this year as well. Coming in at number 26, I do have the new San Antonio Spur and Chris Paul along with Devin Vassell in that backcourt in San Antonio. Now, I'm just a little worried about Chris Paul at this point of his career. He's going to be 40 years old at the end of the year, and I do think Devin Vassell is really good, and he's definitely holding up this ranking for these two. It's just when you have Chris Paul at this point of his career and the point guard position being the most loaded position in the NBA, it's hard to wait this out for them. I would like to see Devin Vassell take another step this year, and I do think he is capable of doing that. But like I said, there's just a lot of talent here, and it's hard to rank this Spurs backcourt higher than where it is right now. Off the top 25, we have the Toronto Raptors backcourt of Emmanuel Quickley and Grady Dick. If it was RJ Barrett as the starting shooting guard, I would definitely have these two a lot higher. I just have some question marks with Grady Dick as the complementary piece to Emmanuel Quickley in that backcourt. If you guys watched my top 30 point guard ranking video, you know that I have Emmanuel Quickley as a borderline top 15 point guard this year, which is a great feat because like I said before, that positional group is absolutely loaded right now. But I do worry about Grady Dick being a complementary piece just this year. Hey, he's 20 years old. That is fine if he's going to have his ups and downs in year number two. I would like for him to take strides defensively. I'd like for him to be more efficient, just not outside the three-point arc, and show that he can be more than a one-dimensional scorer in this league. But I do think Emmanuel Quickley is the best player that we have talked about out of anybody in any of these backcourts in the video so far. Coming in number 24, it helps that these guys have played with each other for a little bit now. It's the Los Angeles Lakers backcourt of D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves. A lot of question marks with this backcourt as well. D'Angelo Russell opted into his player option this offseason, which makes him kind of a prime trade candidate this year. If the season goes south for the Lakers and they need to make a win now move, they can use his $18 million a year salary. As for Austin Reeves, last year, kind of disappointing because he was looked at as such a nice third piece to LeBron and AD after their Western Conference Finals run in 2023. We saw that the volume efficiency really wasn't there from what we saw in those 2023 playoffs. But going back to D'Lo, he proved me wrong 100% last year. I wasn't the biggest D'Angelo Russell fan, and he had one of the best offensive seasons throughout the regular season of his career. So if he can replicate what he did last year and Reeves can go back to what he was in the 2023 playoffs, this could actually be a top 15 backcourt next year at its highest potential. We're We're going to stay in LA for number 23. We have James Harden and Norman Powell. Now, there's not a lot to get excited about this backcourt defensively, but a lot of people are high on James Harden this year and think that he can revert back to what he was in Houston and Brooklyn now that Paul George is in Philadelphia. And while we may get some glimpses of that on the offensive end, I wonder if that's going to come at an expense on the defensive end, as his defensive play is already declining. Norman Powell is somebody that is a nice sixth man, I think, on a really good team, but now Los Angeles is going to need him to step up to be that number 3 scorer with Paul George in Philadelphia. So I do think that this backcourt could be very fun and good offensively. Just what they are defensively is holding them back from being any higher. Because as we go throughout this, if you have someone that is a really good offensive player and a solid defensive player that could complement him, that could really gel for a nice backcourt. And one spot ahead of them at 22, I have the Charlotte Hornets backcourt of LaMelo Ball and new backcourt member Josh Green. Now, if Brandon Miller was somehow in this backcourt, they'd be a lot higher than this, but I do expect it to be Josh Green starting at the shooting guard position for them this year, who they picked up for basically free this offseason. And I think Josh Green is a nice 3-and-D shooting guard in this league, and he's going to play very well next to LaMelo Ball, who I do think is going to have a better year than James Harden next year. Now you're adding in what Josh Green can do defensively for that backcourt. That's going to make them higher than the Lakers and Clippers backcourts here. And if LaMelo Ball can stay healthy and just play at least 70 games this season, he could be an all-star and a fringe all-NBA talent, because I do think he can elevate the Hornets this year to being a borderline play-in team for the first time since the 2022 season. So this backcourt took a hit this offseason when KCP left Denver to go to Orlando, and now it's Jamal Murray and Christian Brown in Denver. They're coming in at number 21. Now, obviously, Jamal Murray is great, but throughout the regular season last year, just struggles to stay healthy, and that's going to be a big question mark with Jamal Murray's health this year. Now, we did just get that massive contract extension, but it was coming off very poor Olympic play, and then you go back to what he was against Minnesota in round 2, it wasn't great either. So I think there can be some concerns with Jamal Murray without KCP in that backcourt, and while I do like Christian Brown as a nice role player for this team, we'll see if he can step up in the absence of KCP this season. Kickstart the top 20, we got Damian Lillard and Gary Trent Jr. in Milwaukee. Now, I've talked about some bad backcourt defenses so far. I don't think this one is going to be great either, but I do think this is going to be a very fun offensive backcourt. Now, they don't really need to be great defensively because they're going to be surrounded by Brook Lopez and Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton and some really good defenders in Milwaukee. And if Dame can show that last year was a little bit of a down year, he can go back to what he was in 2023 with Portland, and Gary Trent Jr. can complement him and take better shots, realize that he doesn't need to be one of the top scoring options, and make his open looks, this could be one of the more efficient backcourts in all basketball offensively. Coming in at number 19 that I think is going to have high upside as an offensive backcourt this year, and that's going to be Josh Giddey and Kobe White in Chicago. So yeah, like I said, I take the rankings of these guys as well, and Kobe White is ranked fairly high in the shooting guard rankings, and Josh Giddey is borderline a top 20 point guard in the league when he's going to get this full shot that we're going to see him at this position this year for Chicago, and that averages out better than having Gary Trent Jr. as their starting shooting guard, or Christian Brown, or Norman Powell. So I do think Josh Giddey is going to be a good point guard for Chicago this season. I think he's going to be one of the better initiators, at least in the Central Division, and I think in the Eastern Conference as a whole. And for Kobe White, he was runner-up in most improved player voting last year. If his efficiency could just be a little bit better in the half court, he's going to be one of the better 3-level scorers at the shooting guard position next year. And I just think they're going to complement each other very well, and that may be a hot take for me. Coming in at number 18, I have the Orlando backcourt. That's new, and you have KCP as the starting shooting guard and Jalen Suggs going back to the point guard position. With them not re-signing Markelle Fultz, not taking a chance on Tyus Jones, I think it's safe to assume that Jalen Suggs is going to be the starting point guard again for Orlando, something they drafted him in hopes of being that back in 2021. It really didn't work out, and he thrived last year playing as the starting shooting guard in that 3-and-D role. So I'm intrigued to see how he's going to be going back to the point guard position and trying to initiate for this offense. And him and KCP, though, defensively, is going to be one of the better defensive backcourts in this league, and we're going to value a lot of offensive backcourts. This one's ranking alone is purely on their defense, and they're both great 3-point shooters as well. Coming in number 17, we have an elite offensive player, and in my opinion, on his way to being an elite defensive player, we have the Atlanta Hawks' new backcourt of Trae Young and Dyson Daniels. So in my opinion, this is the backcourt that Atlanta should start game number 1 with DeJounte Murray now in New Orleans and Dyson Daniels now in Atlanta. I think his defensive style of play is going to complement Trae Young very well in the half court. And obviously, Trae Young is one of the better offensive point guards in all basketball, and if Dyson Daniels can take that step defensively this year, and I think he can under Quinn Snyder, this is going to be a really nice backcourt going forward for the next 5+ years for Atlanta. At number 16, oh man, I really want this backcourt to work. They're playing under a new head coach in JB Bickerstaff. We have the Pistons backcourt of Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. I think there's going to be a massive year 4 jump for Cade Cunningham. I mean, we saw that last year going into year number 3. I think he could be an all-star in year number 4 and show everybody why he was the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 draft. This is by far the best roster around Cade Cunningham since they drafted him a couple years ago, and what he's been taking steps each year offensively, I think it's all going to come together for him this year. The big wild card is going to be Jaden Ivey, because at times last year when Monty Williams was fully invested into him, into the starting lineup, he looked great as a complementary piece to Cade, but then other times he's making lapses defensively, he's not hitting his shots whatsoever on the offensive side of the floor, and there's just a lot of disappointment around Ivey's game for somebody that was the 5th overall pick back in 2022. But I do think it's going to come together for this backcourt this year, and they're going to have their best year yet together, and I'm just excited to watch Detroit Pistons basketball again. Coming in at number 15, we have the Miami Heat's backcourt of Terry Rozier as the starting point guard and Tyler Hero as the starting shooting guard. Now, I don't love this backcourt defensively, but I do think it's going to be one of the better three-point shooting backcourts in all of basketball this year. Hopefully, Tyler Hero was healthy throughout the whole season, and same with Terry Rozier as he got banged up when he was traded to the Miami Heat back at last year's deadline. So if these guys can be healthy for a full year together, and they got good defenders behind them like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, I think they're going to shine offensively together in the 2025 year. At number 14, we have the Houston Rockets backcourt that has a lot of upside if Jalen Green can fully break out this year. We'll have to see it though. It's him and Fred VanVleet in that backcourt. Yeah, if Jalen Green can go what he was in just the month of March last year and show that he can average 20 plus points a night efficiently, play good defense, and show that he can provide winning basketball for Houston, this is going to be a great backcourt because Fred VanVleet is still one of the more underrated point guards in the league. He's going to be an elite three-point shooter, an elite facilitator, an above-average defender, and that can complement Jalen Green very well in that backcourt. So if Jalen Green can break out this year and have the best year of his career, which I think can happen, and that's why I have them ranked 14, this may actually end up kind of low at the end of the year. Coming in at number 13, we got the Philadelphia 76ers with Tyrese Maxey and projected starting shooting guard Kelly Oubre. So obviously Kelly Oubre starting at the 2 is holding them back a little bit. It's not going to be Paul George as the starting shooting guard. If it was though, they would definitely be top 5. And if he's going to be someone that's going to realize at this point in his career, he can make his money for putting all his effort on the defensive end and not really think that he's a top scoring option on a team anymore, this is going to be a great backcourt because Kelly Oubre, if he can emerge as a really good defender, can help out Tyrese Maxey a ton on that end, while Tyrese Maxey is going to continue to emerge as one of the best offensive point guards in all of the NBA. At number 12, we have one of the best shooting guards in the NBA, Anthony Edwards, and his backcourt partner in Mike Conley. So yes, Mike Conley I don't think is going to be a top 20 point guard next year, so that's holding this backcourt back a little bit, but Anthony Edwards is one of the best shooting guards in all of basketball. You can even say he is the best shooting guard in all of basketball. And this is going to be another year with them playing together, which is great for their chemistry going forward. I just am a little worried that Mike Conley could regress this season, and it's going to be a lot of carrying on Anthony Edwards back in this backcourt. But hey, maybe it's Rob Dillingham and Anthony Edwards by the end of this year. Just missing out on the top 10, we have the new New Orleans Pelicans backcourt. I actually have no idea what it's going to look like, but I do think it's going to be DeJounte Murray and Herb Jones there, which is kind of fun. Now, if it was CJ McCollum as the starting shooting guard, maybe I would hold this one back a little bit because there'd be a lot of question marks defensively. I think they should probably go with CJ McCollum as the 6th man this year because Herb Jones can complement DeJounte Murray very well together, because if Murray is going to be this offensive first point guard again, something we didn't really expect after he left San Antonio because he was such a good defensive guard there, Herb Jones is going to be the perfect guy next to him. It's no longer going to be Trae Young. It's going to be one of the best perimeter defenders in all of basketball to help him out on that end of the floor, and DeJounte Murray can really emerge as one of the top offensive point guard options in the NBA. So to kick off the top 10, we have the new Golden State Warriors starting backcourt now that Klay Thompson is in Dallas. It's Steph Curry and Brandon Podziemski. I have a lot of Brandon Podziemski stock, I'll admit it. I am very excited to watch these two play off each other next year. Brandon Podziemski showed so many flashes in his rookie year, and then he looked great in the summer league, in the cup of coffee he had there. He looked very good for Team USA's select practice squad against the Olympic squad this summer. And I just think that Brandon Podziemski could just do everything kind of well, right? He could pass, he could defend, he could run in transition, he could dribble, he could shoot, and that is going to help a ton when the Golden State Warriors are operating through Steph Curry in the half court. This could be one of the better, well-balanced backcourt duos in the NBA. At number 9, we have the new Phoenix Suns backcourt, Tyus Jones and Devin Booker. Now, Tyus Jones is not a good defender, but Devin Booker, you know what, isn't the worst defender in the world. This is going to be a very fun initiating backcourt, with Tyus Jones being a good ball handler in the half court. Devin Booker can now play off ball to what we saw last year before they asked him to play point guard, but also Devin Booker can play point guard now. So Tyus Jones was a great three-point shooter last year. He may get so many wide open looks this year when he's playing with Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant and Devin Booker all at the same time. There's going to be some question marks defensively, but this is still a very good offensive backcourt. At number 8, we got the Kentucky boys in Sacramento. I hope that he starts this year, and that's going to be Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox. It may not happen fully, but Malik Monk's going to play a ton of minutes, and even if he's coming off the bench, he's definitely going to be the primary shooting guard for this team. team, and they are so good offensively together. I think De'Aaron Fox has improved every single year on the defensive end of the floor. They have the chemistry, the continuity. They've been playing with each other for a few years now. I think you have to have them in the top 10. At number 7, you have Indiana's backcourt with Tyrese Haliburton and Andrew Nembhard. Andrew Nembhard broke out in the playoffs last year, showing that he could do playoff caliber things on both ends of the floor. I thought he did a great job trying to guard Jalen Brunson in the playoffs, and Derek White and Drew Holiday and even Damian Lillard for a stint. You added now that he's a elite three-point shooter. He's a good playmaker. Next to Tyrese Haliburton, who's an elite three-point shooter and one of the best playmakers in the NBA. If Haliburton can improve his defense just a little bit next year, it may be criminal to have them outside the top 5. But just missing out on the top 5, we have the new Oklahoma City Thunder backcourt with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Alex Caruso. So I'm projecting that Alex Caruso is just going to replace Josh Giddey into that starting lineup, and Lou Dort is probably going to come off the bench with Chet Holmgren playing the 4, J-Dub at the 3, and now Isaiah Hartenstein at the 5. And Caruso and Shai in the backcourt together, that is an elite defensive backcourt duo. Because you're adding in Caruso, who's an all-defensive caliber guard defender, and Shai, who's not an all-defensive caliber guard defender, but he's right there, and he's also one of the best offensive players in the NBA. He finished runner-up in MVP voting, and they're just going to be a joy to watch on the defensive end of the floor. And Caruso, when he's going to bring that hustle energy every single night playing next to Shai, who's going to operate in the half court, they are going to be one of the best backcourts in the league. The only thing that held them back outside the top 5, we haven't seen it yet. So these guys in the top 5 have played with each other at some point in their careers. So coming in at number 5, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers backcourt, Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Now this backcourt was great in the 2023 season. Darius Garland was a little disappointing in the 2023 playoffs, and this past regular season, he was banged up, disappointing as well throughout the regular season, but I do think he's going to revert back to what he was in 2022. It's a big year for him. They didn't trade him this offseason. Donovan Mitchell signed the extension, and these guys could be the best offensive backcourt duo in the league. They have the potential to pull that off, and I do think each one of them has good defensive potential as well. They're going to be playing year 3 together. This could be the best one yet between the two. At number 4, you have the best defensive backcourt in all of basketball. They just won an NBA title. They just played for Team USA in the Olympics. You got Drew Holiday and Derek White in Boston. What's holding them back from not being in the top 3 is just the offensive potential of the duo. I do think if these guys were the top 2 scoring options on a team, I don't think they would be an elite team in that conference, and the guys ahead of them could definitely be that, but these two are just so much fun to watch defensively. They could be arguably the best defensive backcourt of all time when it's all said and done if they have another elite defensive season this year and next year, and who knows, maybe Boston repeats, and I just gotta put them 1 next year. So to kick off the top 3, I got Ja Morant and Desmond Bane. These guys have been playing together since the 2020 season. They were a 2 seed in the Western Conference as the top 2 scoring options on their team back in 2023. Desmond Bane was banged up last year. Ja Morant was suspended and banged up. Now they're going to be playing together fully healthy for a full season. I think they're going to show everybody why they are one of the best backcourts in all of basketball. The one question mark is Marcus Smart going to be the main 2? Is he going to be the main 3? Where's Bane going to be? So if this was Smart and Ja Morant, I bump them down a little bit. But if it's Bane and Ja Morant, what Bane can do as a complementary shooter next to Ja, because he could space out the floor and allow Ja to drive throughout the paint and show and excel what he's best at in the half court, they could be the best offensive backcourt duo in the NBA, or at least behind my number 1 option, because they may be in their own tier. So just missing out on their number 1 spot, they never played with each other in the NBA until this season, but they won a national championship in college. It's the new New York Knicks backcourt with Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges. Jalen Brunson just finished 5th in MVP voting last year. He was on All-NBA second team. He carried the Knicks, averaging 27 points a night on elite efficiency, led them to Game 7 of round number 2 against the Pacers, and now you're adding one of the better complementary 3-and-D wings in this league, who's an absolute Iron Man out there. He's going to play all 82 games this season. And I think he's going to revert back to what he was defensively in 2022 when he finished runner-up in Defensive Player of the Year voting. I promise I'm not biased with this one. I do think Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges are a top 3 backcourt in the NBA, but you can let me know in the comments if I'm being biased on this one. But I think it's a unanimous number 1, the best backcourt in the NBA. This was probably getting tweeted left and right throughout the playoffs. People probably said it's the best backcourt of all time, which is kind of crazy because we just watched Steph and Clay win multiple championships together. But either way, it's Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving in Dallas. Yeah, this duo just went to the NBA Finals, and between any backcourt members, they have the most points per game combined between the two, 58 points per game last year. And Luka Doncic won the scoring title. He finished 3rd in MVP voting, and his shooting guard partner Kyrie Irving averaged 25, 5, and 5 on 50, 40, 90 splits. That is the best offensive backcourt we have seen in a little bit since probably prime Steph and Clay. I guess you could say the one thing holding them back, they're not a good defensive backcourt duo, but the offense is just so elite, it makes up for it. So that is gonna be for me. Hope hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with in the comments below, and let me know your top 5 best backcourts in the NBA. Drop a thumbs up if you want to see maybe my top 30, and drop a thumbs up if you maybe want to see me do this with frontcourts in the NBA and rank them from 30 to 1. Let me know. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you use code SROS, SROS, on Underdog Fantasy. 50% deposit match up to $2,000. You really can't beat it throughout the NBA, NFL, and college football seasons. Link is in the description. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.